Okay, this is my audience.
Alright. The U.S. Department of State says that over 95% of Americans own at least one car, but many of those Americans don't actually know how their car works or what's necessarily in the car. Well, today I'm going to be telling you about how a internal four-stroke combustion engine works. And I know a lot about it because my dad and my grandfather are both mechanics, and I've kind of worked along with them and learned a few things from them. And so, anyway, first up, I'm going to tell you about the parts of the combustion engine, the basic parts of the combustion engine. And then I'm going to tell you about the fuel of a combustion engine, and then I'm going to tell you how they both work together to make the engine run. And so, to start off, I'm going to show you about the parts of a combustion engine, and I have a couple of the parts here. This is a piston. It's just a. This is how it. This is the thing that kind of moves and makes the engine move. This here is a valve. It allows. It controls what fuel, the air that comes through the engine, and this, it's in a box, and this is a spark plug. This ignites gas and makes it explode, creating the power. And so, anyway, when you have these together, and a few other parts, these basic parts can help create an engine. And so, the next part of the combustion engine is the fuel. The fuel of the combustion engine always has to require oxygen, no matter what is burning. If it's gasoline, diesel, hydrogen, it's always going to have some amount of oxygen. And there's several different types, as I said, diesel, gasoline, various other types that are also being explored now too, because gasoline is running out. And so, but regardless of what kind of fuel you're using, there's always a correct ratio that has to be achieved to get a good, like, to be efficient of the burning and to create the most power for the least amount of fuel. And that's called a stoichiometric ratio, and it is what that basically means that when you light the fuel on fire and the amount of oxygen that's in there in the combustion engine, when you light it on fire, there's just enough fuel and just enough oxygen for it to completely burn, and there's nothing left inside of it. There's only exhaust, and all the power that you can get is achieved. And so when you have the parts of the combustion engine, such as the piston and the other ones, and the correct fuel, you then have a combustion engine that can work. And how that works is, and these are the basic parts, they aren't exactly complete, but there's a piston, okay, and it's inside of a cylinder called the engine block. And so, anyway, the piston is going up and down, driven by, would be going up and down. And as the piston is going up and down, it's being propelled by the explosion of the gas. But as the piston goes down, it opens up this valve right here. It opens it up and allows some air in. And that allows the oxygen to come in that's required to burn. And as the piston goes back up, it starts compressing the air. This piston is, or this valve over here is shut, pulled shut, and the piston goes up and starts compressing the air and the fuel that's been injected through an injector. And this spark plug lights it on fire, and the gas that's been compressed along with the fuel explodes down, causing power to go through onto a crankshaft and spin the motor. And so as it goes down, it transfers the power, and as it goes down and comes back up for a second time, there's a second valve that's open, and it pulls out all the exhaust and the burnt out materials that are no longer useful, and that travels down the car exhaust system out the tailpipe. And so that's basically how a combustion engine works. There's a few other parts of a combustion engine, but for the most part, that is how a combustion engine works. And without any of the parts of an engine and without any fuel, without either of those, you would not have any kind of an engine. The engine would not work. And without the combustion engine as we know it, we would not have cars as we know them and several other things, and our lives would actually be fairly different because many Americans use cars to get to work and to conduct their everyday lives. So without this very important part of a car, we wouldn't have our lives as we know it. And so that is my speech. Thank you.